O'Connor makes a moral pressure test for Christians regarding the goodness of God. He essentially asks, if you were a Amalekite and you knew the Israelites were coming to destroy you, would you be immoral if you chose to try and defend your family? He claims that if you say yes, you would be immoral, then you're affirming the genocide commanded of the Israelites. He then assumes that if you say no, then you're saying that God's command is wrong. How should we as Christians actually answer this question? The scriptures frequently use hyperbolic language when related to warfare in the Old Testament. What I mean by that is that this kind of language, slaughter everything, men, women, children, animals, is typical warlike language of ancient cultures. But what we know historically is that the Israelites did not do that. And in the books of Joshua and Judges, we find God telling the Israelites to live at peace with the people in the land that you have taken over. In other words, he didn't really expect them to wipe out everything. This alone doesn't make the problem go away, but it does help us better understand what God was actually telling the Israelites to do in that context. God's commands are acts of judgments against these people groups for centuries of violence, oppression, and child sacrifice. But God's judgment is for the people groups, not the individuals. And it's worth noting that God has been allowing these groups to go on for centuries now, not enacting it as quickly as one might hope that he would. Scripture does not say that the individual people or the children or the women are morally guilty of what their culture has done for centuries. An analogy here would be that if a person was put on death row, he would be expected to want to prolong his life, but the person who is working for the state who has to enact that would not be morally wrong for carrying out the state's judgment. In other words, there's a distinction between someone trying to self-preserve and God calling a judgment out upon a group of people. It is not wrong for the Amalekite to try to protect his family against the impending judgment coming from the Israelites. And the question assumes a false moral symmetry between protection of your family and a divine judgment command. Joshua uses ancient victory language to explain God's judgment, but we see from history and from archaeology that people still lived in the land with the Israelites after they did what God commanded them to do. As such, objective morality can still remain grounded in the goodness of God. Individuals are still free to protect themselves and defend themselves, and God is still just for being a judge over the world that he created. Like and subscribe for more.